All right, so seriously, guys, seriously. So, in case you missed it, a couple of days ago, I did another poll where I asked you guys if you would like me to review another Brightside video like I did a few weeks ago. And I'm taking a look at the results of the poll, and seriously, guys, out of 1,300 votes, we have, you can't see it, but like, hang on, let me show you. Out of 1,300 votes, 88% yes, 12% no. Seriously, guys, like, do you guys just like watching me die inside like that much? And like, hang on, let's take a look at some of these comments. Yes, please, it's important to call out bad history as long as it doesn't impact your mental health. I absolutely agree, it is important to call out bad history, but my mental health, it is definitely going to suffer, but okay. I mean, like, Jay, I enjoyed the last one very much. Your reactions are great. I know it's tough, but do it for your fans. I think you got something going here. Oh, gosh. Just, like, all of these comments. Bubblegum, I want to see you rage. Oh, my gosh. All right. Oh, wait, hang on. I see somebody else I like. Sabrina. Hey, Sabrina, hope you're doing well. My boys eagerly said yes. They love that one. All right, fine. You all win. I will do another Brightside Titanic review video. Just, heaven help me. All right, well, hey, without any further ado, let's get into it. Hey everybody, all right, once again, welcome back to my office. This is where I edit most of my videos. And, okay, so let's find a video to suffer through together, shall we? As you can see, I've already typed in Brightside Titanic. Let's see what we find. A ship that could have saved everyone on the Titanic. Okay, so we're definitely not going to watch that again. What if Titanic escaped the iceberg at the last minute? I mean, okay, so just looking at this thumbnail, why is the Titanic's hull so much, like, larger? Like, it's so tall compared to the... Skip, I'm not doing that one. The truth about the Titanic has been revealed. They lied to us. Oh, really? Okay. All right, let's see what this thumbnail tells us about Titanic. Apparently, the Titanic sank during the daytime. Okay. The Titanic stern is way too high up out of the water. Okay. And apparently the Titanic's funnels are red. Uh-huh. Right. Okay. I kind of want to suffer through that one, but hang on, let's keep looking. Titanic sinking was predicted 26 years before it happened. Okay, so I'm assuming they're talking about the book, The Wreck of the Titan, or what was it, Futility, I think. But wasn't that book written in, like, 1898 or something, like 14 years or so before Titanic, not 26? I know it was in 1886. I double-checked the year it came out in the comments below, like, let me know in the comments below, but I'm fairly certain that that's wrong. If they can't even get that right in the title... Keep looking. It was not an iceberg. Titanic survivor claims an iceberg didn't destroy the ship. Okay, so this is the video where they were talking about where a guy thought an explosion sunk the Titanic, but this video has been already heavily debunked by Tom Linsky, so I'm not going to suffer through that again. Okay. Titanic survivor revealed his story of what happened. Hang on. What if Titanic was smaller? What if the Titanic sank today? Okay. Titanic 2019. Let's take a look at this one. I've seen this thumbnail before. I've never watched the video, but I've seen this thumbnail before. So Titanic is sinking. People are in the water recording the ship sinking with their phones. Okay, so if the Titanic sank today and there were people in lifeboats, I guarantee you people would be recording it with their phones. I guarantee you that would be happening. However, with this thumbnail, I highly doubt that people who are in freezing cold Atlantic water are, while dealing with hypothermia and dying from it, are going to be thinking, oh, I'm just going to record the Titanic with my phone. So, anyway. All right, guys, you know what? I think I'm going to suffer through this video. What if the Titanic sank today? This is the one we're going to suffer through together. All right, let's do it.
When you live with
and an ad.
severe
Great.
Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis,
Okay, skip. Here we go.
Sea travel is safer today than at any point in history. But that doesn't mean some people don't get cold feet when it comes to getting their feet wet. Everyone can name at least one famous shipwreck, and some would rather keep their feet on solid ground rather than risk a stay in Davy Jones' locker. But how worried should we be? Could a Titanic-like disaster happen today? Well, strap on your life jackets and man the lifeboats, because you're about to find out.
Okay, they haven't really said anything yet for me to try to debunk, but this image does kind of bother me a little bit. Like this, you just got a lady, she's sitting in an inflatable raft, eating popcorn while watching a ship sink. I mean, would somebody really be that chill in this kind of circumstance? Anyway, whatever.
Not that your ship is about to sink or anything. I don't want to panic anyone watching this from the middle of the Atlantic. Speaking of that, let me know in the comments section which cruise destination you'd most like to visit. Did anyone else hear splashing? It was probably nothing. Before we can answer our main question, we need to know what led to the sinking of the Titanic becoming one of the worst maritime disasters.
Did you guys see that?
It was probably nothing.
Hold on.
Before we can answer our main question, we need to know what led to the sinking of the Titanic becoming one of the...
Look right there, guys. If you look at the picture of the ship, they already have their split model. So it's like they already have it. They just used the model that has the ship splitting in two. They just kept the ship together. Okay, that just made me laugh that they didn't like edit that out or something and show it later, but whatever.
The worst maritime disasters in history. Everyone knows.
So the Titanic just bounced off the iceberg, huh? That's how it happened, and the ship bounced back a bit? Really?
Knows the basic story. The ship hit an iceberg, there weren't enough lifeboats, and Rose had the necklace the whole time.
Okay, so once again, they haven't really said anything for me to debunk yet, but just that one comment right there, like, anybody who is into these ships and stuff would know that Jack and Rose are fake. You know, they weren't really on the Titanic. But I feel like that just that one little comment may cause some people to get confused. Like, oh, was Rose real? Was Jack and Rose real? I feel like that little thing would confuse some people. So anyway, it's a tiny thing, but whatever.
Oh, was that a spoiler? Sorry. Ignoring the exploits of fictional characters.
Oh, okay. All right, so, all right. They said fictional. Okay, we're good.
All of that is basically correct, but missing a few key details. The first big issue contributing to the ship's demise had to do with the culture of early 20th century ocean liners.
Is that supposed to be the Titanic?
The captains of these ships were under constant pressure to keep a tight schedule of arrivals and departures. These schedules were challenging to keep in ideal circumstances, and frequently required pushing the vessels close to their limits. Okay,
so while it is true that captains on ships during the time period were encouraged to keep schedules, you know, I mean, that's how businesses work. Even today, people want people to have ships and planes and trains and whatever arrive on time. That's just how things are. But no one back then would blame a ship's captain for slowing down in dangerous conditions. And what you have to remember is, it is true that the Titanic received several ice warnings, and Captain Smith was aware of them. You know, the Titanic's crew was aware of them. But on the night the Titanic struck the iceberg, the weather appeared perfect around the ship. It looked like they could see for miles around in all directions. And before Captain Smith went off duty, he told Lightoller, keep an eye on the horizon. You know, keep an eye on everything. Look out for icebergs, keep an eye on the weather, and so on and so forth. And he told Lightoller, if anything changes, to let him know. no one, and I mean no one, would have blamed a ship's captain for slowing down in dangerous circumstances. It looked like everything was okay at the time. I mean, anyway.
It's also not clear if the captain was fully aware of the danger. At the time,
he knew about the ice. Guys.
it was common for the ship's radio operators to work for a third-party company. Relaying messages to the crew was the second priority to sending private telegrams for the passengers.
Okay, so while it was true, the Marconi operators, they were supposed to send messages from the Titanic's passengers and stuff. They also prioritized messages to others, like from ships to the ship Titanic's crew. Like if they got an ice warning, they told the Titanic's bridge crew about it. I mean, that's how it was. There were a couple of instances where some ice warnings didn't make it to the bridge, but, for the most part, Jack Phillips and Harold Bride did a really good job. They did everything they could to get as many messages to the bridge as possible. I mean, it's not like they're sitting there and going, oh, ice warning. Okay, forget it. I'm just going to send this private message for another passenger. I mean, that wasn't how it was. Anyway.
This went so far as the Titanic's radio operator telling another ship to shut up about icebergs because he had a backlog of private correspondences.
Seriously. As I have said 1,000 times, that isn't how it happened. The radio was broken, and Jack Phillips and Harold Bride fixed it the day before. And while it is true they were busy dealing with a backlog of messages from the radio being down, basically what happened was Titanic was communicating with Cape Race, which was around 400 miles or so away from Titanic, and he had to have the radio turned up very loud so he could hear the faint dots and dashes of Morse code from Cape Race. And then the Californian, being 10, 20 miles away or whatever, tried to contact Titanic. Because it was so close, it came through the radio as a loud ring in Jack Phillips' ear, which caused him to rip the headset off. And then out of anger, he told the Californian to shut up. He was busy. I mean, it was just a rage thing. Jack Phillips was tired, and it's not like he's like, hey, I don't care about icebergs. Shut up. I'm busy with messages. There were other circumstances that caused Jack Phillips to react the way it did. If you look at this, it just looks like that they were just being careless and, oh, icebergs, no, I don't care about that. That's not how it...
Additionally, it was widely believed that icebergs didn't pose any significant danger to ships.
Where did you hear that? I mean, what universe did...
In fact, a few years earlier, a German liner called the SS Kronprinz Wilhelm managed to complete its route after having its bow crumpled by a collision with an iceberg. Around that time...
Okay, so I'm not familiar with that ship. I don't know the story of it, but... Okay, even if that story is accurate, I'll have to double check it. But when a ship hits an iceberg and the hull gets crunched in, pushed in, how on earth would people still not think that icebergs are dangerous? Seriously. I mean, even if a ship hits a berg head on and the bow is crushed and the ship survives, it still did colossal damage to a ship. Why would people not think that bergs are dangerous? That makes no sense.
Titanic's future captain, Edward Smith, would dismiss the possibility of a potential maritime disaster by saying, modern shipbuilding has gone beyond that.
Bye-bye call. Later.
Chest congestion. Hello, 12 hours of relief.
12 hours?
Okay.
Not coffee?
Skip ad. Captain Smith did make that comment, but he was talking about, just how ships were so well built. I forget the exact point where he made that comment, but he was talking about the watertight bulkheads and how all of the ship's safety features, how these ships are just These ships are extremely well built and extremely safe. And honestly, he was right. Ships were very well built for the time period, you know. It's just, what you have to remember is the amount of damage that Titanic took that caused it to sink would sink any modern day vessel. Like even ships today. Costa Concordia sank and it didn't have anywhere near the amount of damage Titanic did from the berg. I mean, we're talking about damage from the front of the ship to aft of the first funnel. That's how much of the ship's hull was damaged by the iceberg. That's a huge amount of damage. And Titanic could survive a good chunk of damage, you know? So, I mean, Captain Smith just made that comment. He's like, I can't see an accident happening to this vessel. Modern shipbuilding has gone beyond that. So, I mean, sure. I mean, that is kind of a bad thing to say, I guess. But I understand what he was referring to. He was simply meant that these ships were incredibly well built and incredibly safe. It's not like these people had a super, like, religious faith in the ship or something. That's not what it was at all. He was just like, these ships are well built and they're very safe. And these ships can survive most accidents. What happened with the Titanic was a complete fluke, colossal amount of damage. More damage than anyone thought would happen on any ship at that time period. Anyway.
People today mock how the Titanic was advertised as unsinkable.
We talked about that in another video. I'll include a link to that video in the description below. The official statement from the White Star Line was that these ships, and they only put it in one ad, you know, that these ships they are designed to be as unsinkable as we can make a ship. Not that they are completely unsinkable. It just means that these ships are safe. They are as safe as we can make them. I mean, they act like people had a religious faith in Titanic or something, whatever.
But back then, it barely even counted as a boast. Regardless of the reason, Captain Smith chose to continue ahead at full speed. He did have the presence of mind to order the Titanic's lookouts to watch for ice, but due to a...
I already said all this. I don't need to say it again, but I'm dying inside, guys.
Clerical error, they were never given binoculars. The lack of lifeboat...
I mean, okay, there's more to it than that. You know, they didn't have the key because that officer took the binocular key with him. But again, binoculars wouldn't have been helpful when looking for an iceberg at night. They would not have been helpful at all. Did they need the binoculars at sea? Like, would they have been useful during the daytime? Absolutely, they should have had them. But in the circumstances that the Titanic was dealing with that night, they wouldn't have been using them. So, whatever.
Boats was also due to a misunderstanding of how any potential collisions would play out, and not just because they would be redundant on an invincible ship. At the time, it
Not invincible.
was generally accepted that if a ship ever needed to be abandoned, the passengers and crew would be picked up by another vessel in the same area. No one had ever anticipated the need to evacuate everyone on board onto lifeboats.
Okay, so they actually got that detail right. I'm absolutely stunned. That is what the purpose of lifeboats was during the time period. Lifeboats were not seen as a means to put everyone on a ship, you know, they weren't seen as a means to completely evacuate everybody from a ship and put them all on lifeboats. You know, on the busy shipping lanes of the time period, you know, they always assumed that there would be another ship close by that could come and pick up other people. It was like this for the Republic, you know, when that ship sank a few years before Titanic. It didn't have enough it didn't have enough lifeboats on board for everyone, and the ship sank so slowly that they were able to ferry people from the Republic to other ships. And yeah, so I can't believe I'm saying this, but they actually got a detail right. But more importantly, what is up with that sinking? Is that really how they think the Titanic went down, by breaking like that and dropping like, what is that, like a reverse V-break? Aaron 1912 would be proud. Anyway.
Also helps to explain why the evacuation was so disorganized, with many boats leaving only partially full.
Do you think they're going to get this detail right?
Well, that's a pretty big oversight. The original plan could have worked if someone had picked up their distress call in time. You see, by 1912, Ships weren't yet required to have someone operating the radio 24/7.
Okay, that's
This
true.
meant that the radio operator of the SS Californian, the nearest ship, and the one Titanic's operator had told to shut up,
Please clarify about all that. But anyway,
was asleep when the distress calls went out.
that is true.
Making matters worse was the fact that the Titanic's radio operator reported the wrong coordinates in his SOS. This meant that even the ships that received the call had trouble finding where the Titanic had gone down.
They get so close to getting details right, but then they get something else wrong. Okay, so it is true that the Titanic sent out the wrong coordinates when it put in its distress message. You know, Captain Smith got the coordinates off, and so did Boxhall when he sent them. But still, despite the fact that the Titanic was sending out incorrect coordinates, the Carpathia found them without any issue. You know, the Carpathia was the first ship to arrive, and it's not like they were out there doing zigzag patterns or whatever looking for the Titanic survivors. They got lucky and, you know, they saw the green light from Boxhall's flare and lifeboat number 2, and that took them straight to the Titanic. So they get some details right, but then they tell all this other stuff that's not right at all. I mean, like, if you're going to do this, tell what really happened. Say that the Carpathia got lucky and spotted the green flare from Boxhall's lifeboat and lifeboat number 2, and that's how they got there. I mean, like, why do you... They weren't searching around. That didn't... Whatever.
Down. So those were the main problems facing the Titanic on that fateful night. Overconfidence, poor communication, insufficient lifeboats, and the inability of rescuers to find her. Now that we've established all that, it's time to answer our main question. What if the Titanic disaster happened today? After the Titanic sank, many new procedures were established with the hope of preventing similar disasters. One of the first was the establishment of regular ice patrols in that region of the North Atlantic. In the early days, this meant guys with binoculars freezing their noses off in boats and planes. But fortunately,
aircraft were still at their infancy during that. I would imagine, like, I don't know for certain, but I would imagine for the most part the ice patrol was just ships going around and looking around, not airplanes. Because airplanes were still very basic. So, if I'm wrong about that, please correct me in the comments below, but I don't think aircraft would have been used too much for looking for icebergs during that time period. I mean, it's just, they were too new.
today,
And even the first, I forget her name, but the first female pilot to fly over the English Channel happened right around the time, or a little bit before Titanic, if I'm not mistaken.
not 100 years ago. Another reason today is better than a century ago is that our iceberg detection has gotten a lot more sophisticated.
Well, that's true.
The United States Coast Guard and Canadian Ice Service regularly patrol the area with radar-equipped HC-130 aircraft to scan for any icebergs coming too close to major shipping routes. With the added assistance of global positioning satellites and reports from passing ships, the two agencies can provide daily updates on the position of icebergs in the North Atlantic.
No.
Individual vessels also have a much easier time spotting icebergs in their vicinity, thanks to technologies such as radar and sonar becoming commonplace.
If you're a college student, keep watching.
No more ads! So many ads.
These advancements have done a great deal to make sea travel a lot safer, but they aren't foolproof. Accidents can still happen. So it's a good thing large vessels are now required to carry enough lifeboats for everyone on board, and the crews receive training in proper evacuation procedures.
Okay, so just to be fair, the Titanic did have a lifeboat drill. You know, it's not like the crew was completely unprepared. They did have training. Just saying.
Modern ships are also required to have a radio operator on duty at all times. That's good for several reasons. One of them being that no one wants to be the guy who slept through a crisis. The captain of the California...
Seriously, is it that hard to make a proper template that look like the ships you're talking about? So the Californian is a massive passenger ocean liner with 3 funnels, huh? Is that really how it was? Is that really how it was?
Californian got fired over missing the Titanic's call, and he hadn't even been breaking any rules.
Did he get fired? I feel like he wouldn't. You know, I mean, it wasn't his fault. He was asleep. I don't think that's right, but correct me below.
Emergency radio calls have been standardized to a greater extent than they were in 1912.
Okay, the Californian had 4 funnels. I got it.
Additionally, GPS tracking means that if a ship needs help, responders will know precisely where the trouble is going down. Pardon the pun. Rescue efforts are also much more coordinated than they would have been in the early 20th century. The Coast Guard maintains a variety of emergency response vehicles, ranging from small boats and helicopters to large ships and planes. They're also better able to coordinate with and dispatch help from other civilian and military traffic in the area. So what would a modern-day Titanic scenario look like? Well, a good example might be what happened during the 2012 Costa Concordia.
Are they really gonna go there? Are they really going to talk about Scatino? And number one, do you guys really just not care about making your ships even look remotely right? So the Californian has a lot of funnels, but yet the Costa Concordia has nothing. If I remember correctly, the Costa Concordia had 1 funnel, right? I mean, is it really that hard to make your ships look more accurate?
Concordia disaster. Sure, this shipwreck occurred in the warm waters of the Mediterranean, and the Concordia struck a rock rather than an iceberg. But the aftermath was similar enough that some comparisons can be drawn. The full story is as follows. The Italian cruise ship was passing close to the island of Giglio when it collided with the edge of an underwater plateau.
Didn't go down bow first, it rolled over.
Believing he knew the channel well enough to navigate on his own, the captain
I actually like that depiction of Scatino. Like, I can picture him doing that.
had disabled the collision alarm for the Costa Concordia's onboard navigation system.
Huh?
It was later revealed that there were numerous distractions on the ship.
No, that's not right. There were a lot of factors. He didn't disable a collision alarm. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not defending Scatino here. He was an idiot. But that's not right. Like, everyone knew that the collision happened right after it happened. There was miscommunication between Scatino and the guy who was at the ship's helm. Like, there was a lot of stuff. But it wasn't that he disabled the collision alarm. Like, can you even do that? Like, I mean, that's not... And also, the water came in where the ship's power was generated, the ship's engine room and all that. Like, I mean, the power went out almost immediately. Like, I mean, like...
such as the presence of the captain's girlfriend.
Mistress.
Unlike the Titanic, the Concordia had more than enough lifeboats to get everyone off safely. Unfortunately, no amount of policy reform can completely make up for human error and poor communication, and failure to follow emergency procedures delayed the evacuation by more than half an hour. By the time the order...
More like an hour, I thought. Wasn't it an hour or so after the Concordia hit the rock and started to sink that the evacuation happened? And Captain Scatino was like, he wasn't telling the Coast Guard how serious the situation was. And it's like, Scatino was like, he was trying to hang on to the fact that like, oh, no, everything will be okay, is everything okay down in the engine room, is everything okay? And they're like, no, it's not okay. And then the Coast Guard was messaging Scatino, Costa Concordia, are you okay? And he's like, everything's fine, we're just having a blackout, everything's fine. Like, Scatino was an idiot. Yeah, he was an absolute idiot, but like, anyway, like,
to abandon
there was a lot more to it than how they depict it here.
ship had been given, the Costa Concordia was already beginning to list so severely that the crew was unable to launch many of the lifeboats.
That's true.
When the surf settled, 33 people lost their lives and another 64 had been injured.
Yep.
As bad as that was, things could have been much worse since
True.
the location of Concordia's collision did the passengers and crew a number of unexpected favors. For starters, they were within sight of land when the accident happened. This meant that help arrived reasonably quickly once the captain got around to sending his SOS. In fact, with the help of their life jackets, many passengers were able to swim all the way to solid ground. No one would be swimming very far if they'd struck an iceberg in the North Atlantic. When the Titanic sank, it was about 400 miles from dry land, and the water was a freezing 28 degrees.
I can't believe they got that right.
In the modern world, things might never have gotten to that point. If the Titanic had struck the iceberg today, the Coast Guard would have deployed a small fleet of boats and helicopters to assist in the evacuation. Not just that, but every ship in the area would have made a beeline for their coordinates the moment that SOS message went out. With a competent commander overseeing an organized evacuation,
Captain Smith was a good captain. He did the best job he possibly could.
this modern Titanic might not be considered a disaster at all.
I feel like they're insulting Captain Smith here. Seriously.
On the other hand, Costa Concordia shows what can happen when safety precautions are ignored. Now, don't let this scare you away from planning that Caribbean getaway. You're still much more likely to get hurt driving to work than sailing the Seven Seas. Hey, if you learned something new today, then give this video a like and share it with a friend.
Oh, you know what I'm gonna do? I am giving this video a big dislike. Oh, I have to sign in. Okay, I will. I'm glad that's over. So, in conclusion, what do I think of this Brightside video? I think that should tell you everything that I think of it. All right, so let's start with the positives. The only positive thing I can say is that they got some details right. But besides that, I can't really say anything positive about it. Because even though they did get some details right, there was so much that was wrong that it basically overrides everything they got right. Like, if you watch that video, it would give you the complete wrong idea about the entire story of Titanic. It would completely throw you off. So, it's just... honestly, I believe that that's why there's so much false information out there about Titanic, is because YouTube channels like this, they just see the name Titanic, they don't really care that much about finding things that are accurate about the story. They just want to make money, and they sell all these lies, they confuse all of these people, and they don't give two flips about it, they're just out to make money, and they don't care how much they have to distort history to do it. So, would I recommend watching Brightside? Absolutely not, unless you want to rage like I did in this video. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video of watching me rage to Brightside. If you would like me to suffer through another video by them or some other channel, let me know in the comments below. And if you guys like these videos enough, maybe I'll make this a regular thing. Not too regular, but on occasion I'll do something like this. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. All right, everybody. Well, hey, thank you all so much for watching. Be sure you leave this video a like. Be sure to subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one. Have a great day, everybody.